Welcome back to PhantasmaCast.
Wait. Where am I?
Right after, you're so good at this. PhantasmaCast.
Pressure's on.
What do you know about two certified bankers? PhantasmaCast.
Welcome back to PhantasmaCast, folks. I'm Jake.
And I'm Derek.
And we're really excited about this episode because there's something special about this episode.
Because there's someone special.
In this room right now, Andrea.
Hi, guys.
Wait, did we say it last night? Should we do it?
No.
Our dear friend Andrea is in the room. Andrea, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm so nervous.
We have been
Don't be.
thinking about having Andrea on the show for a while now, and we finally thought for the 10th episode, for the last episode of the season, let's make it a banger. Let's bring on Andrea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's the last one?
Of the season, yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to take a little bit of a break and then come back in full force.
You guys have been killing it.
Thank you.
Yeah. This is why I'm nervous.
Well, you shouldn't be, because, like, kind of give us an introduction of who you are, why we know you.
Who is Dre?
Who's Dre?
Who is Andrea? Well, I know you guys from film school.
Yes.
I know Derek from high school secondhand because we didn't really hang out much in high school, but
No.
my husband was actually one of your close friends.
Yes.
And then we ended up working together
Yeah.
after college. But yeah, I met you guys through film. We were filmmakers together.
And Derek and I met each other through you.
Yes.
You're the common thread there.
Matchmaker.
Yeah, so, like, this podcast really wouldn't exist without you. So it feels fitting to have you here.
If you go back
Am
far
I your
enough in time-
mother?
Yes.
Oh, that's no. You guys would have done something great. I had nothing to do with it.
But you have been doing great things. Recently, in the last couple of years, you graduated the AFI program.
Yes.
You're giving me that look. I'm going to talk about your fucking accomplishments for a minute.
No. Okay, go. Make it fast.
So you're super cool AFI grad, right? The Ivy League of film schools. I think you just got off the film festival circuit with your last movie.
Yes.
Tell us about your movie.
It's a short film. It was, yes, I went to the AFI Conservatory, and it was my thesis film. So it was in Wonderland, just a sweet little short about a migrant girl who is struggling to accept her new life as a migrant in the U.S. But there's always a twist. There's always some fantastical perspective to it. And I think that's why we're all friends, because we do love genre in general, and so I like to play with that in movies. And so it went great. We had a long run, and I'm really, really grateful. But now I'm back home, settling in, hanging out with my friends, recording episodes on their podcast. So it's good. It was fast, and it kind of winded down, but I think it was needed. So I'm happy to be here.
I had a blast watching it at the Phoenix Film Festival, sitting right next to you, which was a lot of pressure because it hit me, like, from the start. And I know that's, like, easy to, like, praise you right to your face, but it was amazing. I think you're really underselling it by saying it's a sweet little film. It's a beautiful, dramatic, like, real movie. And I was crying, and I had to hold it back to be like, that was good. I mean, like, I'm biased, but that one's gonna be my favorite. So
thanks.
It was wonderful.
I didn't get to sit next to you guys because it was a packed fucking house.
Yeah.
And I had to sit all the way in the back. But No, yeah, like the movie played so well. I looked over to Brittany. It was her first time seeing it too, and she looked over and she was like, "It's so good."
Oh, I love Brittany.
And then when you got up and did your Q&A, I was like, man, she's a fucking director. Look at her doing the thing. So we're super proud of you.
Thank you guys. It's hard to look back and reflect, but I'm happy to have great friends like you. So appreciate it.
Well, enough about you.
Please stop.
We'll take the spotlight away from you a little bit. And
Thanks, guys.
there's the door. Now we'll shift the spotlight to talk about the two films that we paired for today. One being 1922's Nosferatu, and then 2019's The Lighthouse. And why did we pick these movies? Well, because Robert Eggers of The Lighthouse is going to be doing a Nosferatu remake.
Yep.
So we thought that would be pretty fitting. That's our reason for picking him.
And we opened up the option for Andrea because you're the special guest. So what about this pairing to you was interesting?
I was really excited about these two because I have been listening to you guys. If this is your first time, go back and watch. Go back and listen. Soon watch, because there might be some recording on the future. Anyways,
peek behind the curtain.
Maybe. But I was really excited about these two because I think it's interesting, you guys bantering over films and finding the similarities, because they exist already, and there's obviously sometimes they're only a few years apart, so you can find DP or sound design or whatever it is. But for this one, I wanted to throw a little curveball and look to the future as to, okay, we have a really strong visionary filmmaker in Robert Eggers, and thinking about why would he want to remake something, comparing one of his films that I felt kind of had more of the obvious in the moment comparisons to Nosferatu, thinking maybe you could see the crumbs of his aesthetic, and then it'll just be really nice to see once the remake comes out, if there are, obviously it's going to be his voice, you're going to see him in that film. So
for sure,
I think as you guys with your skill to really watch and pinpoint these things, I thought it would be really cool to do that and think about why he chooses to remake this movie.
I completely agree. There are some immediate things that are noticeable. That's this is a direct influence of his Robert Eggers from Nosferatu. But before we get into all that, what are you buying? What are you buying, Jake?
So it's getting to spooky season, right? And I wanted to kind of round out my horror film collection with things that either don't have a Scream Factory edition, or I like the movie and I've liked it for a long time, but I just don't own it. So the other day I had to go pick up stuff from Home Depot, and then Zia was right there, and I was like, gotta go burn some more cash, right? So I went through the horror section, and I picked up Cloverfield. Oddly enough, I have 10 Cloverfield Lane, but I have never owned Cloverfield, so that's a mistake I needed to fix.
That was my confusion, because I was like, don't you already have? And then you said it. 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Which I loved that movie when it came out. I love found footage movies, just regardless. As a genre, I think it's it makes it more real, right? And believable. And I like the rawness of it. And it just kind of gets me into it more. Also, I love that TJ Miller is the guy behind the camera in Cloverfield. You never see him, but you can hear his voice as TJ Miller. Yeah.
And now we don't see or hear him at all.
I also picked up, it was a 2-pack of Hostel and Hostel Part 2. I haven't returned to Eli Roth in a while. One of the things that I respect about a filmmaker are people who do it because it's fun, and I think he's one of those filmmakers, and you can see that his influences are on the screen. I think Borderlands was an odd choice just as a movie.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to watch the Hostels again.
It got a lot of play in my household when those
Hostels?
came out. Yeah, which is strange.
It's like, Grandma, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's just like, I love it when they cut the dicks off. What can I say?
Fifth time of the day.
I also found The Wailing.
Love The Wailing.
Oh, so good. That's actually my heart. I have my hands over my heart right now.
I feel like I've heard this phrase a lot, and I feel like I'm being a copycat, but like I think I've heard it like referred to as like the Godfather of horror films, because there's so much there, and
We're talking about the Korean movie?
yes,
The Godfather of horror films?
yeah.
And like, but it came out not that long ago.
No, like the Godfather of horror films in the sense that it's like
Oh my
so
God. I'm
good.
so dumb. Oh my God. I literally was thinking a Godfather, not the Godfather.
Oh, okay.
Like Godfather in
you're like, but it's not old.
It's just a baby.
Oh, pardon.
No, like you're right. It only came out a few years ago, but it's been like universal acclaim, I feel, since it came out. So
good.
that's really rare.
Yeah, it's like one of those movies where like it's a family drama first, and then it has like a layer of scary stuff on top of it.
It's like you got the drama down.
Uh-huh.
You got the characters down. And then the horror is just like that fucking poetry that goes over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Completely agree.
beautiful
Perfect.
film. And then I also picked up the Halloween trilogy, the David Gordon Green trilogy, which this kind of plays into the next movie that I got.
Okay.
Because, Derek knows that I have had a complicated relationship with the David Gordon Green Halloween.
Yes. Speaking of movies that came out to universal acclaim, don't check me on that.
At the gate, the first Halloween was on my shit list because it just was Halloween, no subtitle.
Yeah.
And it was a sequel to Halloween, right? So it was like, what do they call it? A requel or whatever?
Yeah.
I fucking hate that shit. I can't stand it.
But it's useful for describing this exact thing.
And then, so I was like, okay, like Halloween 2018, it's good. I like it. Despite the naming conventions being utterly idiotic.
Yeah.
Halloween Kills came out and I was like, I'm done. I'm done with Halloween. I just didn't like it. I didn't like how they treated legacy characters. I didn't like the weird tone of the ending, or I just wasn't with it. And then you convinced me to watch Halloween Ends, the third one. And I was like, this is interesting.
It's Corey season, baby.
Yes.
All right. I'm so glad that worked because that's a long shot. Because you were so against Halloween Kills, which understandably, that's not for everyone.
Yeah.
I was over here like, evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. Like, kind of ironically, it's the weakest one of those three in my opinion. But yeah,
I feel like, when you watch Halloween Ends, it gives a little bit more context to Halloween Kills.
that's what I thought.
And there's some movies that are like that. Like I watched Prometheus the other night, another movie that I fucking hated for years and refused to rewatch. And I hated it so much I didn't watch Alien Covenant. And then I watched Alien Covenant and I was like, this movie fucking rocks. Ridley Scott does know how to make movies still. But it gave context to it, and I realized, oh my god, like Prometheus, like these movies, they're David's story, the Michael Fassbender character. And so when you go back and watch Prometheus from that perspective, you're like, oh wait, okay, this is the beginning of an arc that I wish they had like had a third movie to finish. But yeah, I bought the 3-pack to watch all three all the way through for spooky season. This brings me to my last movie. Sorry, this is going on a long time, but
Random thought. Maybe you use it or not, but so this morning I was listening to Linkin Park in the end.
Okay.
And the beginning sounds like the Halloween theme song. Have you caught that?
I don't know.
What I've done. That one.
Oh, the the one that ends a Transformers movie?
Yes. Okay, what I've done. Hold on. Okay, listen to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've always thought that.
Even that's like the fucking knife.
Yeah.
That, ironically, you could end a Halloween movie.
Oh, shit. Anyways, that's what I thought. Thanks, guys.
That would make an incredible like fan edit to the end of Halloween Kills.
Yes.
Oh, from Michael's perspective, like what he's done.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You know, does he have a conscience?
Does he have remorse?
Does he care?
You'll have to see in Halloween Ends.
One. Okay.
My last movie is I think one of the better like demon possession movies that really people like have not given enough like acclaim to. It's called Deliver Us from Evil, and it's got Eric Bana doing a Boston accent,
Which is a choice. Yes.
he is a homicide detective, trying to figure out this series of murders, but then like the killer actually turns out to be possessed by a demon, and it is so creepy in tone. I think it's very successful, and the exorcism scene at the end is really well done too. Those are my movies. I'm sorry that took for fucking ever, but
I don't have any this week. It was a slower week for me, but I do plan on picking up Smile at some point.
okay, perhaps today.
Perhaps today, just because the trailer dropped for Smile 2 and it looks bonkers. It looks even more weird than the first one.
Yeah.
Which the first one I feel like had like no expectations for it. So I went in with no expectations, but I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
There was some pretty good stuff in there. So I'm excited to see what they do with that for the second one. And then actually Andrea was just talking about this before we recorded. I do want to see Bones and All. So I want to see if they've got a copy of that.
Before we recorded, so Andrea infamously like doesn't collect movies like we do.
Oh
Yes.
my god, calling me out like that.
She's like, you're going to have me on and
The
then
worst
execute
damn
me?
guest. Okay, go ahead.
What were your plans?
So what do you ask? What are
you buying?
What are you buying? So I was gonna be giving away a box.
What? What are you buying? I'm not buying it. I'm giving away.
So I have a box in my garage of
Okay.
like like those tin ones of like
Steelies.
the Steelies. See, I don't even know.
I've got a tin cover of that superhero dog, Buddy.
Airbud.
Airbud.
So I have like La La Land and what else was I saying?
Hold up. You're like giving, straight up giving away?
So I don't like stuff. Like I have shelves, but I put other things on them, not movies. Like I love movies, but I guess I could play it on my PS5, but I just don't. I'm sorry. I'm the villain. So I had a box and I was like, oh, I could take these to you guys today, but I forgot it. There was some Baby Driver.
Yeah.
Drive, like some of my favorites. And then I was telling you about it and I was like, maybe I'll just keep them if like the world ends or something and I need to watch something and there's nothing.
Yeah.
At least they're my favorites.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I was going to bring that today and I forgot.
Yeah.
And you would have just fought for it.
Yes,
we would have.
Yeah.
I don't think I have La La Land actually.
It's a really cool
Do you
cover.
have the blue and white one?
With the keyboard?
Yeah.
Yes. That's the one you have. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wait, did you buy that for me on my birthday once? I think you did.
Maybe.
Oh,
You don't have to keep it just because I bought it for you one day. if you're like, you know what, that's just not me anymore.
A gift is not a gift if it's a burden.
It became one after, but I did enjoy it when it had its run.
2 certified burdens.
What are they called? Teenies?
Okay, so you want to explain that, Derek?
The Steelies?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I forget. No, no. Go. No. I forget the genesis of it. But
we were at Zia.
Okay.
And you saw that on the little sticker for the price tag. They had shortened steelbooks to Steelies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
to
cool.
Steely.
Yeah, like we're in like Australia or something. I was like, what is this? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're looking at the Steelies over there.
Pretty epic collection.
Oh my lord.
Okay, so you guys want to start with Nosferatu?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it's
we
going to
should.
be a quick one to get through because it's a silent film.
And it's better to talk about it first because then we can go, here's where the influences are.
Okay.
In The Lighthouse.
So Nosferatu, a symphony of horror. I thought you were like, you did it wrong. You said it wrong.
Like,
You idiot. Nosferatu, a symphony of horror, is a 1922 silent film that is essentially an unauthorized adaptation, a German unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula. And when it was released, the Stoker estate actually sued the production company that had produced it. Prana, I think is what it was called. And then the judge ordered all copies of them to be destroyed.
It's insane.
Yeah, that's vengeful.
Pretty spiteful, right?
Yeah, I read it was like his widow.
Yeah, and then they had to just throw it away because they didn't have any money.
Yeah,
Like if they sue the production company company wouldn't be able to do anything.
like, I'll see you in court. No, you won't. We're getting rid of it.
Yeah.
We can't afford
to be there. Yeah.
Prana actually folded after Nosferatu. They didn't make another horror movie or a movie after that. But
That's
you know
what you get for stealing.
exactly, right? But is the horror genre not happy that didn't happen, that copies survived? Because I think it's a movie that's early enough in like the history of filmmaking that it a lot of critics will credit it with kind of setting the stage for future horror films, right?
Yeah, and it was like also of that time for the German expressionist movement, where it's just got like those really like dark themes. It's got those really unconventional sets and lighting. It's
Exaggerated.
It's very exaggerated. Yeah, like long shadows. Like it's very gothic. It's perfect for a vampire movie. So it just fits.
Count Orlok, like himself, just as a character, like the character's design is fucking phenomenal. He looks like a rat.
Yes,
with
good.
like the 2 front teeth.
Yeah, good comparison, John.
And considering the times of it being like, early cinema days, like silent films, like I'm sure that there were things that were not done before, like just even the tone of the film, like you said, it could have set the stage for horror, the color, the use of music against it, costuming, like you're saying, right? Like a very condensed version of something, of an idea that probably wasn't played with in the past.
So Nosferatu is about like it follows the broad strokes of the Dracula story, right? Jonathan Harker is sent to Transylvania to like finish a real estate transaction with Count Dracula. While he's there, he becomes his prisoner. And then Count Dracula, in every rendition I've seen, he seems like a picture of his wife.
Okay, and he's like, oh.
Like he's like,
Swipe left.
I immediately love her.
Bite left.
So he's like, get fucked, Jonathan Harker. I'm going to get your girl.
Yeah. Can you get the wine? It's in the lowest cellar. Here's a key. Here's a lantern.
Inside the coffin.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me get my coffins together, and I'm blowing out of this town.
Dipped.
And like one thing I liked about this movie is that it spends a lot of time on what would be the Demeter in the Bram Stoker story. And you have the ship's captain writing letters, and Dracula itself is an epistolary tale, right? Like the story is told through these letters and diary entries that the people in the story are writing, right? So it's not written like a normal narrative. And so in this movie, you still have that going on, right? Because the only narrative that you're giving aside from the visual narrative is things people are writing in...
And his wife's letters to him and his response to.
And then the captain's log, he's like, people on the ship are dying. I think there's a plague on the ship, Yeah. What he doesn't realize is that there's a vampire in the ship, killing his sailors. Yeah. So I think that was a cool way that they, they used a new medium to kind of adapt this novel that was written in a kind of unconventional way. So the ship arrives in England, or Wismar, Germany. And I think one cool thing, and this is something that like we kind of like discovered together, was that, or no, maybe it was me and Andrea. I can't remember. We realized that the reason there are rats in the coffins is because he's using the rats to cover up this plague he's bringing with him.
That feels like a me thing. That was part.
That's a smart thing. So that was totally there.
No. Yeah, I wrote that in the notes too, because it was like, along with being like associated with that demon, right? It's like there's rats pouring out of his coffins into the streets. It's like, I'm like, this is a great cover for like a vampire about to do some fucking vampire
about
shit.
To wreak some fucking havoc.
Yeah.
Also, cool commentary. Speaking of going back to the whaling, right? Like the themes of the whaling and like the paranoia around new incomers to, like obviously immigrants, people invading. Like you can kind of sense that in Nosferatu too, because he's coming and people are like being plagued by him.
By an inhuman force.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, so it was probably like a pretty political movie.
Of course.
Mm-hmm. To be like, we all know what the rats are.
Hidden behind fangs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was post World War I Germany, so. Fuck. What was I like?
You were the ship arrived with the rats.
Okay. So then the kind of plague sequence unfolds, right? People around the city are dying. You get these really cool, eerie shots of like these funeral processions of people carrying like coffins filled with the dead and everything.
Yeah. That was such a cool shot. Remember? She's looking out the window and it's just this line of black coffins. Mm-hmm. That was sick.
And then even though you praised me by calling me smart earlier, I was like,
I called that one.
Yeah, I was like, what's in front of the frame here? Like, that's just the windowsill.
It's the windowsill.
I'm like, all right, carry on.
Perspective, subjective shot.
You're like, what a choice.
Oh yeah, it's not a clean framing there. Yeah.
And then, basically, the Jonathan Harker character finally gets back. He brings this book with him that details how to defeat the Nosferatu.
Yeah, I think it's so funny that he brought it back too. Like it serves the purpose in the plot because the wife's gonna read it. But it's so funny that he's like, this thing gave me nightmares. Don't you dare read it. And she's like, okay, honey. And then just sneaks off into the other room. He's like, oh, what the hell?
Yeah. And then she reads a passage that confused the hell out of us. But we did eventually, like, translate it correctly.
Yeah.
Basically, the instruction was like, you got to trick the vampire into coming out during the daytime. Which she does. And then Count Orlok
dies in the sun.
he just like goes poof, right? Just like
Yeah,
disappears.
the window, the light comes in from that window that she was peering out of. Foreshadowing shot
Yeah.
of the light coming in through it.
And I think I read somewhere that vampires dying by daylight is a thing that this movie
Oh, really?
introduced. I'm pretty sure that wasn't in.
I did read that. I've never been patient enough to read Dracula, but in Dracula, he can walk during the day.
Wow.
He's a day walker.
Yeah.
Look at you, FW.
Yeah.
We're talking about the language of filmmaking at the time is the tinting of the scenes to denote the time of day. Like we kind of had to put that together,
Because it was like pink and like green and, obviously colors. You're like, that's not afternoon, but I guess if you don't have colors,
Yeah.
I would pick pink.
It's like magenta was early morning, sepia was daytime, and then the blue color was night. Which is like, in black and white, the thought process is, how do we tell these fuckers what time of day it is?
Yeah, because obviously their cameras probably couldn't shoot that nighttime, so it would probably be impossible to shoot at night.
Yeah.
So they shot during the day.
Yeah. And they had probably had a really hard time recording werewolves, which is why they have a striped hyena stand in for that. I read that was indeed supposed to be the werewolf.
It was supposed to be a werewolf?
Yeah. When he arrives, that was a funny scene too.
They're like, is that a hyena?
Yeah. There's like little moments of comedy that I appreciate in the movie where he shows up in town, shows up in town, and it was like, I'm off to see Count Orlok, and everyone's like, turns around and gives him the, don't raised eyebrows all around, and then the barkeep with the bushy ass eyebrows comes by.
We did mention could be maybe the start of that trope, right? Like the townspeople warning you, the gas station clerk warning you not to keep going because there's something,
Yeah.
So that's cool.
And then he warns, there's a werewolf out. And then we cut to it like, that's just a hyena. That's not fooling anyone.
Also, that's kind of hard to find a hyena. Maybe they were easy to come by back in the day. Because a dog, you could have used a dog. That would have been
Maybe they were like,
easier.
A hyena is so otherworldly
So it would be
for
like,
the
location. Cheap ass filmmakers.
But then another kind of technical part that we had noticed was that a lot of times the score didn't feel like it matched the tone of what was happening.
Yeah, that one's a tricky one because we have no way of verifying if that was the original intent, right?
It wasn't.
Oh, okay.
So I found out that the original score by Hans
Zimmer.
Yeah. They've been doing it. Yeah.
He's a damn vampire.
Show me your dirt right now, Hans Zimmer. Just don't show Hans Zimmer a picture of your girl ever.
Find you, bring his dirt. The original score has been lost to history, or at least the complete score. Like we have parts of it, and other musicians throughout the ages have been filling it in with what they think he might have composed. So we watched the Kino release of the film, and a better researcher would be able to tell you what version of the score came with the Kino. But I think that explains at least some parts where it was kind of like whimsical music.
When it was like like he was in danger,
Yeah.
like running away.
Yeah.
We're like, there's no shift.
Right.
Yeah. No shift. A little too much like xylophone.
Yeah. Yeah.
like wood blocky kind of stuff.
They could have done better. It's almost like they just picked a song and like dropped it in the timeline.
Which is why I think, considering this is a movie that was basically stolen from someone else, like I've heard of like metal bands doing their own version of the score for this movie.
Sick.
That would be.
Derek, since you composed the intro song, why don't you?
Okay. It's just an intro song, but like for an hour and a half.
Nosferatu.
That would be fun,
Certified
like doing the
fans.
Foley for that. Like doing the Foley and everything. Like making it scary, Because the visuals are there.
Just like when Butter is going to write his letters, I just go,
Oh
when
my
he's like
God.
thinking about what to write.
That sounds like a fun editing project
Oh,
that you
yeah.
would give film students.
To modernize.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Wait, is it in the public domain now? Can we
think
use
so.
it? Oh, yeah. 2022 would have been 100 years.
Yeah.
We could Sorry.
I was gonna say Bram Stoker's widow still isn't alive, right? Like we're safe.
But,
She's not gonna order us to burn it.
Dracula.
Dracula should be in the public domain
yeah.
too. That's why there's so many
Or-
fucking versions.
As we know him, Hans Zimmer.
You just write to him, Hans, baby, can we do a Nosferatu thing? I don't know what you're talking about. You're like, come on, quit playing coy.
You sound like the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows. Come on.
Come on.
Fucking guy.
Fucking guy. Taika.
F.W. Murnau, who's the director of the film, and I think back then when we talk about like directors of films, being a director, I think, was a very technical position to be in, right? Like nowadays, directors are kind of the artistic force behind a film. Back then, like a lot of magicians, this is 1922, right? So like if you turn the clock back 10, 15 years, a lot of people who were magicians became filmmakers because you could, do these kind of optical illusions,
Yeah,
in film.
It was just a recorded illusion.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then it as a medium, you could trick audiences. So all that to say that the director, I think, primarily was there to make sure the movie got made. I think a big creative force in this movie was a man named Albin Grau. He was largely responsible for the look and spirit of the film, including the sets, costumes, storyboards, and promotional materials. This is what I read on
The producer.
Wikipedia. Yeah. And the production designer. So he's actually credited with a lot of the look of the movie, a lot of the tone, and then the like marketing campaign when, they attempted to release the movie. But, so I was like, okay, that's an interesting thread to follow. And so I found that, so he actually came up with the idea to do a vampire film. He'd originally gotten the idea of shooting a vampire film while serving in the German army during World War I, when a Serbian farmer told him that his father was a vampire and one of the undead. Though this story may have been fabricated to promote the film. But,
Dude, okay, he is a showman.
Yes,
The producer
okay.
is a showman.
But
I knew a guy.
It goes deeper. Oh, yes. Okay. So this man, Albin Grau, was an occultist. He was a mystic that belonged to the order of Fraternitas Saturni and was a contemporary of occultists Gregor Gregorius and Aleister Crowley.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, Aleister Crowley. Is that like the Black Sabbath song? Like, Mr.
Yes,
Crowley.
yes, like the famous kind of like Rasputin figure, like a mystic, a magician, occultist,
okay.
And so like those were his friends, So I think it's so cool that this person who like really believed in this stuff was like, I'm going to make a movie. I'm going to tell a story that borrows from this kind of belief system that I have. And you know how all three of us had the same reaction in Nosferatu when he has that contract.
Yeah.
And we were all like, that just looks like obvious, just like
Demon language.
Yeah. It fucking is.
Oh no.
Yes, it's real.
Oh my god.
What if they actually tried to get rid of the film because there was something in it,
Now you're cooking.
and then they brought it back,
It survived.
and now it's with us because we watched it.
Yes. Fucking Alban Grau cast
Damn.
a spell
Ew.
that lasted 100 years. Ba-na-na-na-na-na.
Okay, that actually tracks with some like notes that I dug up that said they gave Orlok a demonic lineage and a cult origin.
Uh-huh.
They said Orlok is the creation of Belial, one of the satanic archdemons. He's associated with pestilence or the plague.
Makes sense. The themes. Of
You
the
know,
movie.
that's one of the coolest things about this movie that I liked, as far as like the lore of the vampire.
I agree.
That they were dead bodies from the plague. They were buried in plague dirt.
Yeah.
So fucking cool.
And that's
Black
where they
Death.
got their power. Like one of my only notes in like all caps is the dirt lore is sick. Which is immediately followed by
Falling on his ass.
oh no, yeah, that was good. That was good too. I love that. But in relation to the dirt, I wrote right after it, carrying around a coffin is so goofy it's unreal though. So the way to immediately like ruin like how cool the dirt thing is, because later on when the Count arrives in town to do Count shit, he is carrying around his coffin with him.
Yeah, because he needs his dirt nearby.
Yeah. Which I
Keeps
get.
him alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even before that, though, there's this really funny shot where, what's his name?
The main guy? Like,
The main guy.
Hutter.
Butter.
Butter.
That's why Eggers
script-
wants to make the movie.
The script on the like title cards was a little
Confusing.
too stylized, where we're like, is that a B or an H?
I stick with butter.
Even before that, there's a scene where he's trapped in the castle and he's looking out, and you see Count Orlok just like stacking coffins of dirt up,
yeah.
and then he like awkwardly gets into one of them and closes the coffin on top of himself.
Yeah.
And
It's
then-
very slapstick.
Yeah.
and I think that like speaks to the kind of like the newness of the medium. Like they didn't know what would look fucking awkward, you know.
But in 1922, that was like, yo, how did they do that? That was sick.
Yeah.
Now it's like, come on.
Yeah, that's goofy.
You think you disappeared when you put your hand in front of your eyes? You're like, where am I? Didn't fall for it.
That's a good point, what you said. It's like, it was, like the filmmakers of the day, the people that were innovating, were inspired by other filmmakers of the day, and like none of them were touching these types of genres or tones. So like, of course you might see some slapstick in it because like that's what movies were. Like, Chaplin and like what's the other guy?
Keaton.
Yeah. So it's like, it's
That's
really
the visual language that was in the landscape at the time.
Speaking of, right, we're talking about Eggers and how he was inspired by another filmmaker. It's like thinking of this filmmaker, this producer, like apart from the getting inspired by actual real demon shit, like taking from whatever they were doing at the time, which I think it was interesting because I was trying to find like parallels to The Lighthouse, and what I found interesting was that a lot of the shots inspired in the 1922 Nosferatu were inspired by Caspar David Friedrich's coastal paintings. So they were inspired by coastal paintings. And so when I looked up the paintings, it straight up feels like a shot from The Lighthouse.
Oh, like a foggy
That's cool.
coast.
Isn't that weird?
That's eerie.
How would you describe that to your people?
Well, what's fucked up is that paint. We can't see it, but this painting is of a man with a cane on kind of like a hilltop looking out into a very misty kind of mountainous foresty
Sea
region.
of Fog. It's called Wander Above the Sea of Fog.
That's the name of the painting.
Mm-hmm.
The copy of Frankenstein that I had when I was a kid had that painting on the cover of it. So I always thought that was
Okay.
So
Frankenstein
some cult
related.
thing we're like getting down into. But you know, apparently it's like German romanticism that they were inspired by. And you know, a lot of the set designs were, you know, echoed art by Francisco de Goya, who's that dark paint, the painter who, like, that one painting of the demon eating the head of is it a human or something? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's like someone eats his son. That's what it's called.
That's true. So they were inspired by, like, obviously there weren't films that were made with these types of visuals, but there was art that was being made.
Right.
And so they were inspired by that type of work. And again, the coastal paintings were sort of that link for me. Like, ooh, I wonder if in some research rabbit hole that Eggers was going down on, because he loves his research.
Yeah.
He saw that painting, and it, you know, it was also in the lighthouse. When they arrived to the lighthouse, it's almost like it's very hard to see. And then, you know, the one with the foggy sea, it looks like when the ship leaves, it like abandons them in the lighthouse. Remember that shot?
Yeah.
So
Right
I was
before
like,
their like shift starts.
yes,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, they're being left there to their own, you know, sanity. So yeah, I thought that was a cool link.
That's a really creepy notion that, like, two filmmakers, two visionaries a century apart could have looked at the same painting and gotten inspiration from it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Now onwards to the future, but also still looking back, The Lighthouse. Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, which was his second feature film, I believe. It wasn't originally supposed to be his second feature because he had wanted to do a Nosferatu remake for his second feature. And in my research, he's come out as saying, yeah, that would have seemed a little bit too egotistical.
Yeah.
And that's a good instinct to have, to kind of
Humble.
dial it back a little bit, be like, okay, you've got talent, clearly.
Right.
But like, just sharpen the blade a little bit.
Understanding that, you know, as we're talking about this, and we're talking about how, like, it kind of set the I think Kim Newman called it the template for horror movies going forward, right? So
The Lighthouse?
Nosferatu.
Oh, okay. It's like, damn, all right.
High praise.
I hope so. Yeah. I want more fart jokes in my horror movies.
So it's like, if we look at Nosferatu as like the first horror movie, which it wasn't, but like if we say, okay, it was the first one that kind of brought all these elements together, you know, and set the you know, and then for Robert Eggers to go like, I'm gonna remake the first horror movie, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know, maybe he felt he didn't earn it yet, but you know, he is good. Boy is good. So
I mean, his first feature was a horror, historical horror. So it makes sense.
The Vivitch is, I was in love with it immediately.
Yeah. Just the attention to detail, the consistency of tone,
The language.
great. Yeah.
It almost set the stage for A24, I feel, like horror. Like what you kind of, like, set the bar, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like it kind of did, you did see feelings of that movie and other ones that came after it.
I've never said this phrase before, but I'll say it out loud. I think of it as like quiet horror, you know? Like the 80s was loud horror, and now we have quiet horror.
Like meditative horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a better word.
Creeping horror.
Yeah. And I think we even toyed with the idea of picking that to pair with Nosferatu, but I feel The Lighthouse is just kind of better visually.
I mean, it is a fucking visual treat to watch. Before we get too far into it, Andrea, what's The Lighthouse about?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Are you for reals? William Dafoe can't even tell you. How the fuck am I going to tell you?
You're a fan of me movie, right? Tell me the plot.
No, seriously. William Dafoe and Pattison, he was like, they were like, yeah, he had a different idea what the movie was about. I had a different idea of what the movie was about. And they asked Eggers, and he's like, yeah, it's up to you to.
What a baller move.
That's great.
They're like, okay.
He's like, I kind of like that you disagree because you're at each other's throats.
Yeah.
The whole movie.
To be fair, the script is just dialogue. Not
Well,
strictly dialogue.
Yeah.
But it's
it's about, two strangers really coming together to work on this island lighthouse as, two wikis, and they're wikis.
Hi.
Oh, yeah. And I think there's definitely like isolation and like cosmic horror going into sort of them losing their sanity. And also something I read a lot, noticed a lot of when Defoe and Eggers were talking about sort of the themes and what the film was about. They mentioned like identity, which is kind of what I think drives them to madness, is like, they don't want to show them their real selves to each other. And I think that just makes them grow mad, along with the isolation, which I feel like is a common thread in Nosferatu in a way. That might be a long stretch. But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much what I think it's about.
Yeah, like in a nutshell,
what else
it's about these two
happens.
guys who don't fucking trust each other and don't know anything about each other, are put into a very confined space. They're isolated, and they're put in a situation where that distrust kind of festers into this like crazy climax.
I think that's a pretty apt description of it. And maybe that's not everyone's cup of tea to be like, oh, let's watch some guys
Talk for
Talk
2 hours
in a lighthouse
Yeah.
until they can't stand each other anymore. But I mean,
It's
I
our fucking cup of tea.
yeah, I'm fond of it. Yeah, and I think the like gothic, dark, shadowy nature of like Nosferatu is clearly present here.
For sure.
There's barely any lights on. Like the lighthouse is like the brightest thing, really. But otherwise, they're just like a lantern eating in the dark, like farting with each other, just grumbling to each other, barely talking to each other when they do, because they're just two different people. And like Robert Pattinson's character is clearly like hiding something, and in a way, Willem Dafoe's character is hiding something, but he's doing it in a very different way of being like this boisterous, wiki, like loud personality.
I mean, there's like a power struggle there. Like he's using his power over Robert Pattinson as a way to deflect who he is, to show any vulnerability.
Yeah.
And maybe that's commentary on just toxic masculinity and how guys can't just fucking talk and be real, because then it means your dick's small or something.
Yeah.
Both of these men come from background, like they're wikis now, right? But they come from backgrounds that are very masculine kind of professions. Robert Pattinson was a logger.
Lumberjack, no?
Lumberjack, yeah. Willem Dafoe's character was a sailor, right? And that's why he has that arg kind of dialect that he talks with.
Eggers said that he's a fucking pirate stereotype. Quote.
Including the fucking?
Yeah, he's a fucking... He said he's a fucking pirate stereotype. I'm reading my handwriting, okay? He just said Willem Dafoe's fucking awesome, and he can play stereotypes and make it a multi-dimensional character, human being.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the like the visual like parallels that we can draw with it. Like, I think as soon as the movie started, as soon as The Lighthouse started, we were like, oh, clearly he took inspiration from the aspect ratio for Nosferatu, which was just common of the time, of a 1.33 to 1 ratio, like a more square.
Yeah.
But I looked it up, and The Lighthouse has an even narrower.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Remember, I said, this is whiter. Remember when we watched or we flipped it, right? We watched Nosferatu first, and I said, it looks thinner. It's smaller, right? You're saying
it's tighter.
Yeah.
Barely.
Yeah, the Lighthouse is narrower, is thinner. It's 1.19 to 1. Mm-hmm. So even then, still on the second feature, he's like, I could do more. I'm gonna draw inspiration from Nosferatu and bring it in even closer.
Right.
Let's put these two guys in the frame as close as possible at all times.
I have that's exactly what he was doing. But I have a question. Do you think that when it comes to the 133 to 1, right? Is that just because there was nothing else? Or do you think that, like filmmakers today, you can make a conscious decision, to direct the frame in that way?
I think that was just
what they had
at the time.
Yeah.
limitations.
Yeah. But now it's a conscious choice where, like, some people just won't even watch it because they're like, half the movie's gone. Like, it's not gone.
Right. Or they think it's old, which, like, that's part of the decision is he want, like, a lot of decisions were made on The Lighthouse to give you a feeling that it is historical and hungry.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's definitely a fan. I know we talked about it too, that he loves research. Like, he's a fanboy of history. Like, he's a nerd, you know? And I was reading that he did actually take a lot of inspiration from films of the time of Nosferatu, like for The Lighthouse, which I'm sure, obviously the aspect ratio. I thought, like, oh, probably the lighting styles. But he said that the lighting approach is not really from that period at all, he said in an interview. In general, we're using practical lighting fixtures to light things, which is not something they did in silent or sound or early sound because of just the technology, right?
Yeah.
And so, but because they were using black and white negative, because the negative hasn't changed much since the 1950s, they were still somewhat requiring a lot more light than they would for just a practical lighting set. So I think he was kind of like, he still wanted to innovate, like he still wanted it to feel his, but I think because they were using, film from, not those times, from the 1950s, they still had to adopt things because of the limitations, which adds to, I think, the texture and the life of the movie. Like, it still breathes of a past time. So it's kind of like a nice limitation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, The Lighthouse is one of those movies where it's like the perfect combination of old meets new, right? Back in the early 1900s, when they were first making, like, the first film studios, like, the reason they went to California and opened up in California was because it was sunny year round. They needed that much light to light these scenes. So, like, it was very hard to get that dramatic kind of lighting. So when you talk about The Lighthouse, right, there's a scene that Eggers broke down in like the commentary track. They're sitting across from each other at dinner, and there's a lantern in between them, and that's what's lighting the scene. But, like, a normal lantern could not have lit the scene. They had to put, like, a 600-watt bulb in it. And then you have, like, Robert Pattinson going, yeah, I couldn't see Willem Dafoe at all in that scene.
He said that shooting night interiors, the crew would have to wear sunglasses.
Because
that's how bright it was.
The film was that low of sensitivity that you needed that much light.
I love this shit. So much. I'm bouncing back and forth between you guys going, no way. What? Cool.
Remember I told you I kind of ran down the rabbit hole of William Dafoe?
Yeah.
Because I love him. I just wanted to add his quote of, like, what he thought the movie was about.
Oh, okay. What was it?
So William Dafoe said, without saying what the movie means, it's clearly so much about identity, and when their identity is stripped away, they try these different relationships just for survival because they're put in a difficult place. So that's interesting. Again, like, they're trying out different things with each other.
That's why you see all these different like attitude shifts.
Yeah. And I think like he straight up just also took that. I mean, that sounds like an acting exercise. You know, and like every time I watch The Lighthouse, it feels like an acting exercise. Like they're just bouncing off of each other, you know, like they're upping each other. They're playing with that. Like they're testing each other. Like who's going to be the one that like, you know, steps down. Like, and it does feel like an exercise, I think. And I wonder if, I don't know, like for Eggers, if it felt like that, like if he was just playing with the two awesome, great actors. It sounded like William Dafoe was way more open to that stuff than like, I think I've something Robert Pattinson said made me think like that he likes when directors tell him what they want. And William Dafoe does too. So, but yet he didn't know what the movie was about. Does that make sense? So it is kind of a weird place to be. Like, it sounded like Eggers had a really clear idea as to what the movie was, what like was to look like. But I think I don't know how specific or how much he gave the actors.
In what I've seen of Eggers talking about the movie, he always says that he's like the movie started with tone rather than like a story. So you know, I think it is in a lot of ways as much about the visuals as it is about the kind of character story that's being told. And who knows, man, maybe he did like having the actors come in and create that for themselves.
Oh, for sure. You know? I mean, you have to. Like, I think that's one of the things I learned, really what directing is like listening and allowing the skill of other people like shine and create a safe space for them, while still obviously knowing where all of this is going to mix. Because it's just you and the editor at the end of the day. So, but yeah, no, it sounded like Eggers is a very technical director. Robert Pattinson had mentioned that they did rehearse. So there was a lot of playing that he allowed the actors to do, just also chemistry and all of that. So he taped a rehearsal space, and like similar to stage plays, because Eggers has a theatrical background. Like he's designed, like he's you know, what is a thespian? He's a thespian.
Yeah.
And so, which I think is why William Dafoe and him clicked a lot, because William Dafoe used to own a theater company.
He's so cool.
But he sold it because he wanted to be able to work with anybody whenever he wanted. Like not be tied. But anyways, so they were taping down this rehearsal space, and Robert Pattinson said, maybe I just don't have the imagination. But there was weird stuff like
that's how I feel about theater.
He's like they had to, I think, in which is interesting because a lot of directors, when they're like taping down, doing rehearsal, like for blocking, it is because of the technical reasons of like, we're constricted by a frame. So I need you guys to feel comfortable working very closely together. And that's pretty much what it was. So like they were having to do things, perform really close together. And he's like, Robert Pattinson was like, it looked like we were about to kiss all the time. Like that's how close they were when they were rehearsing. So it's cool because little things like that make you, you know, like a director like Eggers, like he is everything that, you know, he loves, which is theater, which is history, which is, you know, trying new things. And you can see that in the way he approaches like rehearsing, you know? So I thought that was a cool little nugget.
No, I'm so glad you brought that up because I had no way to naturally bring this up until you said that. But do you know what he directed as a stage play?
Yes.
Go ahead. Do it. Do it then.
Nosferatu.
No fucking way.
I have pictures.
Yep.
No way. So he's already done it.
Look at this guy. Look at this. That's from his stage play when he was like 16.
Yeah.
Whoa.
He's a nerd.
If you just like turned your screen to me for like 5 seconds and then took it away, I would have believed that was from Nosferatu.
I know.
That's how good it looks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
But yeah, he said he did it in the style of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari.
Okay.
Which is another giant, like, German expressionist film. So, like, this guy's a nerd, and I love that. Because I also love that movie. I've loved that movie since I realized that Rob Zombie's music video for Living Dead Girl was a riff on that. I've always loved that video. I was like, what the hell is this? And it's just that movie. But as a
That's
music
what I
video,
thought watching Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. What the hell is this?
like, this could use a Rob Zombie song. Yeah. He's been a thespian.
He's thespian. He's a researcher. Yeah. One fun fact, which I was like, why have I never heard of this movie? And I think you were playing with the idea of titling the episode Shadow of the Vampire. Mm-hmm. Have you seen that movie?
No,
I have.
Jake has seen it.
What in the world? That sounds so good. And it's with William Dafoe.
He plays Max Schreck, who plays Count Orlok in the
Who's
in the
an
film.
actual vampire in the movie.
Yes.
Okay, so I honestly don't know if someone wrote this synopsis or this, but I was hooked. Congrats. This is really good. It was probably like a edit yourself synopsis on IMDb.
Yeah.
But it's just like, okay, F.W. Murnau. F.W. Murnau.
Played by John Malkovich.
Yes. Is struggling to create his silent classic Nosferatu on location in Eastern Europe. The director is obsessed with making this the most authentic vampire movie ever, to the end that Murnau has employed a real vampire, Max Schreck, who's William Dafoe. So William Dafoe's this real vampire.
Yeah.
Explaining to the crew, so the director is explaining to the crew that he is the ultimate of that new breed, the method actor. Oh my God. Trained by Stanislavski himself, Shrek will appear only in character and only at night. I thought that was just so much fun. I want to see that.
We should all watch it together as a follow-up to this. It's great. Do you know? Okay,
That's so much fun.
fun fact. Do you know who plays our occultist, Albin Grau, in that movie?
No idea.
Udo Kier.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Blood for Dracula? He was in Blood for Dracula. There's so many good connections here.
And okay, sorry guys, I'm on one right now with William Dafoe. William Dafoe. So William Dafoe.
You're killing me.
Okay. He watches he loves movies. He just loves the craft. And so he will watch an unknown first feature movie, and if he likes it, he will email the director and say, I really hope that we can work together one day. Please let me know.
That's what he did with The Witch, with Eggers.
Exactly. Wow. And I was thinking, imagine an email from William Dafoe.
It feels like an earnest, like a Saudi prince scam thing. Like, hi, this is Willem Dafoe. I loved your feature. Like, sure, yeah. Oh, you want me to send you $500, Willem Dafoe?
That's his little test for you.
Dude, I just think that's the sweetest thing. He just loves it so much that he's willing to he mentions it being like, I know that it's hard to get great movies made, and so if he can be a part of helping by being William Dafoe in your movie, then he will do it. It's almost a way also to give back to the craft for him.
That's very sweet.
I appreciate that both of these actors are actors who have no problem. Well, Willem Dafoe, because that's just who he is. He wants to have interesting roles, but then Robert Pattinson, because I think the man desperately wanted to get away from the Twilight
vampire role that he played.
Dude, are we in a simulation?
How have we not brought that up until just now? Say it out loud.
But
what are you?
He was in talks with Eggers to be in a different movie that he was developing, and then Robert Pattinson said, "No, not really this. Let me know when you have something weird."
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so he showed him The Lighthouse, and he was like, yes, I'm in.
He read the "if I had a steak, I would fuck it" line. He's like, I'm in. Yeah.
Edward would never say that.
Yeah.
Dude, I saw videos of Robert Pattinson's press tour for Twilight. He hates that movie. Oh, yeah. It's so bad. Like, he's just rolling his eyes, making fun of it. Like, he doesn't hide.
Yeah, he's the dictionary definition of contractual obligation to be promoting that. If we're in a fun fact sharing mood, I've actually got one for the Lighthouse, because I was like, because I think we all were like, where the hell did this guy come up with this?
As he calls it, a juvenile film.
Oh, all right. That's funny. I just think back to me earlier going, I would like more horror movies with farts in them. If that makes me juvenile, then yes, it does. But this is actually kind of based on a real life tragedy called the Smalls Lighthouse tragedy. It brought about a change in lighthouse policy in 1801 after a gruesome episode where Thomas Howell and Thomas Griffith, I know, two Toms. Yeah.
And the one from MySpace.
The two-person team that managed the lighthouse were publicly known to quarrel. When Griffith died in a freak accident, Howell feared that if he discarded the body into the sea, authorities might accuse him of murder. As Griffith's body began to decompose, Howell built a makeshift coffin for the corpse and lashed it to an outside shelf. Stiff winds blew the box apart, and the body's arm fell within view of the hut's window. As the winds would blow, gusts would catch the arm and move it in a way that made the appendage appear to beckon.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
Also, why?
Did you say coffin?
Yeah. Like a vampire?
Like a vampire? Okay.
But anyways, we'll cut forward a little bit. After he was relieved of duty, the impact of the situation was so emotionally taxing that his friends didn't recognize him. As a result, the governing body changed the lighthouse policy to make lighthouse teams rosters of 3 people moving forward.
You're like, and don't kill, and don't put their bodies, just dig them up.
Yeah, new policy. So we're adding another guy. Second, and this one's very important, don't do that. Don't do all that.
Please.
Don't lash their coffins to the side of the fucking house. So, knowing what kind of filmmaker Robert Eggers is, and the kind of research he puts into it and the technicality he brings to it, what do we think he's going to do with Nosferatu?
Well, I know that he's going to shoot in color, so that's a big jump. That's a choice.
I'm glad you latched immediately onto the technical aspect of it, because one of the first things I noticed from the trailer was that the aspect ratio is a more traditional 1.85.
Mm-hmm. That was probably a studio thing.
I was wondering, if that's...
Like, you had your fun with your 1.19 to 1, didn't you?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, my juvenile film, The Lighthouse? Yeah, I had some fun, I guess.
Is he shooting on film?
Oh,
wait. He is, because I have another fun fact. I forgot about this one. Oh, wait. This is about the lighthouse.
You like me facts? You think they're fun?
I did hear that Eggers was, every time he rewatches The Vivitch, he wishes that he would have shot in film. Like, there's something about it that he doesn't feel is right. Like, I don't know if it's like it doesn't feel alive to him.
There's that like whole lamenting thing he does where he's like, it could have been better.
Yeah. And I'm sure like first feature budgets, like that's probably why he wanted to shoot film for The Lighthouse.
Uh-huh.
And that fun fact was that he actually had to show them a restoration of a 1929 film, which kind of like, it has nothing to do with Nosferatu, but it's just like an old-timey film, and it was called Finis Terrae. Have you guys heard of it?
No.
Gene Epstein's. And they used that film as an example, like him and his DP, to greenlight the lighthouse being shot on film.
Okay.
So that's why I asked, like, I wonder if he's, because he did have to fight to shoot on film. Like, he did have to convince them. And I think there's probably something about that film that just felt, I don't know if it has anything like to do with like maybe something similar, like a coastal film or something. But no, I was just curious if he was filming Nosferatu in film, because I think he does like the medium, the format. And Nosferatu is taking place in what year is it? Like 1800s?
I think like 1830s, something like that.
So if he felt like The Witch wasn't like, it's probably because of like the time. Like, it didn't feel the time for him. Like, it didn't have a character to it because the film isn't there. Like, the texture isn't really breathing life to it.
Right.
I don't know.
And like maybe he didn't feel like he had the chops or the pedigree to back up that choice for The Witch. But
for
now,
the first feature, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think he definitely has the gravitas to like go, no, I want to shoot on film.
No.
Yeah. It was the camera used for Nosferatu was a Panavision Panaflex Millennium XL2, and the negative format was 35 millimeter.
Let's go. All right.
Yeah.
Hype
So
through the
that'll
roof. Through the coffin lid.
And it makes sense because I do think like he likes to tell stories of the past and like, you know, like really dive into those people and what, you know, the world of the past was, while, you know, obviously having horror and having like that cosmic perspective to it. So I wonder if all of his films are going to be shot in film. I'm glad that he's shooting in film, because now it's like, I think he's definitely getting more from studios because he's been successful.
He's definitely the kind of filmmaker that like he has a good reason to
Yeah, for sure.
do that, right?
Right.
For The Lighthouse, it was because they wanted the movie to look like it was shot on orthochromatic film, which is an old film stock that they don't make anymore. You can still shoot stills with it, but you can't shoot films with it. Huh. So what they had to do, so they did a film on an older film stock, but they used a filter, which it filters out the red wavelengths of light. Which so whenever you look at red in the film, it comes off as black,
like the seagull,
killing. Blood, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, when the water was coming out of the sink, and I was like, "Why is it black?"
Yeah,
It was blood.
And then the blood he has on his face at the end, right? So
Cool.
that filter is what did that. But the reason they wanted it to have an orthochromatic look in the first place is because that film stock gives you a more grizzled, lived-in look, and they wanted that for the characters. So they were like, you could see more of the kind of flaws in their skin with this. And funny enough, they didn't use the filter when they filmed the mermaid scene because she's perfect.
Oh,
Right.
that's cool.
Okay.
So, you know, like when we say like, is he gonna shoot on film? He's gonna shoot on film forever, right?
Yeah, as
if
long
it
as-
makes sense for
right.
what he wants.
I think he tossed the idea of maybe being interested in a sci-fi, but I don't think he said he wasn't. Like his would just be like a Tarkovsky sci-fi, so it would probably not be.
That would be so cool, like a
But-
70s
Yeah.
kind of thing.
No, he said like he felt like, obviously, what is it? Deprecating, right? Yourself?
Self-deprecating, yeah.
Super self-deprecating himself. He's like, no, if I ever made a sci-fi, like he would fuck it up, and it would appear to be a Tarkovsky, but not say as much as a Tarkovsky movie would say. So he was like, I'm not up to par, and I feel, but who knows? Maybe that would be cool, like a period piece sci-fi.
Well, you know, we talk about how like he's such a well-researched filmmaker, and one of the things, I think we talked a little bit about it, but like the dialects of the characters, like if you look at the Vivitch, right, like not only the way that the characters spoke, but you know, they had dialect coaches come in and teach the actors how to sound a certain way.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing for The Lighthouse. Both Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe.
William.
William.
How dare you stutter?
had dialect coaches come in. Willem Dafoe did like the old sea captain kind of thing, right? And then
Fucking pirate.
Pattinson did a Maine accent because that's
okay.
where they were.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I kind of read that they took from like journals from that time. So like, and he created essentially his own language, like in the script.
Right, which is a fucking bonkers thing and such a cool writing exercise, right? Like, I want to say this, but like, how would a sea captain of the time say it?
But through his research, you know, like he read real dialect of the time and created rules for himself, so that then he was still at least somewhat loyal to the past, you know.
He based it off of the writings of a woman named Saren Orne Jewett, who interviewed old sea captains who talked in this old dialect. So he finds a book written over 100 years ago and uses that to like create his language for his like sea captain character. So let's think about Nosferatu is set in Germany. Willem Dafoe has played German characters before, so he's got that German accent down.
Yeah.
Right. He's playing the Van Helsing character, right?
Yeah, I was like, I don't know if we explicitly said that, but he's back. He's going to be in this movie too. And I think they're kind of like Eggers and Dafoe are like besties now.
Yes.
They're gonna collaborate. Speaking of like dialect coaching stuff, I read that Bill Skarsgård, who's going to be playing the Count, got dialect coached by like an opera singer to bring his voice down an octave.
Oh.
And he said that people are going to probably think that they messed with it digitally, but they're like, no, that's his performance. So I can't wait to hear what that is. Yeah. First his eyes in it, right? Doing like, all right, sure. They did that digitally, but no, he did most of it himself. And then, yeah, to do pitching your voice down.
He's a great character actor.
Yeah. I'm excited.
It's an interesting setup, right? Because Robert Eggers is the kind of director who like he has reference material for all of his movies, right? Because they're historical films. But he uses that to kind of create something of an elevated reality, right? So with Nosferatu being his fourth movie and his first remake, right? So there are, yet again, he's operating in a space where he has reference material, you know? It's just this time it's a movie. So, and with the trailer, we've seen that there are these scenes, these very kind of iconic moments in the original film that he's brought over into this film. So, like, what do you guys think about, you know, the idea that like he's still kind of doing his shtick, but like in a different way, you know?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where like his style of comedy, which is kind of dry for the most part, I think it's most like flamboyant in The Lighthouse, with the fart jokes, the "you were fond of me, lobster," "if I had a steak I would fuck it," all that kind of stuff.
Hit the juvenile stuff.
The juvenile stuff. I feel like that can definitely benefit Nosferatu, because like I said, even watching the original, there was some funny stuff in it. Like 1922 funny. Yeah. But I want to see what a current sense of humor can do in there. And yeah, that element is not present in the trailers right now, because they're definitely hyping up.
They're trying to sell you a scary film.
They're like, this thing is gonna sneak up on you and stuff. But I mean, Willem Dafoe's in it. Bill Skarsgård's in it. Nicholas Hoult also can be really funny. So I don't know so much about like Lily Rose Depp. I don't have too much like experience with like her roles to say, but she might be like a big presence in it too, and like the way we'll see that character elevated from just being the, you know, the girl who's pined after by the Count, You know, because essentially she did play a big role in Nosferatu because she lured him in. And then in a way, she defeated him. So I want to see how that's expanded too in this movie.
How to make it not such a like, gosh, how do I say this? Like a romance centric kind of thing, right? Because like, think about her as a character, right? She's distraught that her husband is leaving her to another country. And then she spends the whole time waiting for him to come back. But then at the same time, she's like, wait, there's this dreaded presence that's on its way here. And then when Dracula or Count Orlok comes, she sacrifices herself for the man she loves, you know, to defeat the monster. So, you know, when you think about like the women characters in like The Witch, you know, or like the Northmen, he gives them agency, you know.
I'm really excited to see that aspect of it. Andrea?
That's cool.
Thank you. What are your thoughts on my thoughts now?
I have a few thoughts of your thoughts. The comedy thing is interesting that you mentioned, because I do think that it made sense in The Lighthouse, because it felt like very locker room, boys will be boys kind of comedy.
Yeah.
And when I did see the trailer of Nosferatu, it did feel very like, okay, like I felt confidence in the tone. Like it was very dark. It's going to be gothic, like horror, you know? And I would honestly be off put if there was any comedy in it. Like even just, I don't know. I don't see it, but I think it would be interesting. Like I'm down to see it. I'm still going to see it, but I can't imagine it because I don't know. It just feels like a different movie than The Lighthouse. But anyways, but I like that what you brought up about the female character, because you're right. Like the times have changed. And I think because of his research, I feel like he's going to do a good job of taking what he needs from the times of like, okay, there's dread in this place. There's plague and there's death. There's this like horror that exists already. How is that going to change when Count comes, you know? So I think that's kind of interesting to see. Like, how is he going to thread that in more? Because I do feel like he is a director who likes to incorporate place and time. And so how is he going to do that while also having like characters thread the theme through, you know? Which I don't think the original Nosferatu did, because it's just...
No.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it sucks that they didn't have sound, but I do think, like, sound, like, killed, like, the experience and the immersion of, like, feeling for the characters, really. And the pacing of the movie is kind of weird, too.
We had noticed that Nosferatu is divided into 5 acts, like a Shakespeare play.
Yeah. I know, by the third one, we're like, oh, it's getting close
Almost
to being
done?
dead. Yeah. There's a fourth one? Oh, and then I think I left by the fourth one, and I was in the kitchen talking to Brittany about bread or something. And but no, I look forward to seeing how he brings to life more of the characters. I think it would be interesting if it is the female, which makes sense if it is the female protagonist. The what's her name? Leslie?
I think Ellen. In the original Nosferatu.
Yeah. Ellen, the wife, because it's like she is really important to like what happens, and so that would make sense for her to be driving the story more. I saw the trailer and I'm like, why are there so many characters? I didn't remember that many characters in the original, but then you're saying that he's taking inspiration from Bram Stoker's Dracula, right? So I guess are there more characters? I haven't read that.
I mean, there's the main characters in like the Dracula story, right? There's Harker, there's his. I keep confusing her with Mina. No, that is his wife, Mina Harker. Yeah. So there's him and his wife, and then like Mina's friend,
right?
And her husband,
who is what's that guy? The guy who married that old lady.
Oh, I knew exactly who you meant by that. So perfect clue. Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yes.
That's your fucking clue. It's not Kick-Ass. It's the guy who married the old lady.
Yeah, it's like, who is he? Is he the husband? No, he's the friend. I'm like, girl as in Eggers.
Yeah.
Girl, how many people are you bringing into this narrative? But yeah, that's gonna be cool. Just seeing that.
Yeah. He's who he leaves Mina with to take care of, like she's some fucking child and he's looking after.
But even in the original Nosferatu, I was like, what is the point of these people? Why are they like? It just felt like again, because they didn't develop her character, they didn't put time into her.
Yeah.
Because the times, like, what is a woman gonna do?
Yeah, maybe that's just like a social moray that's like lost on us now. It's like, oh, obviously the bereaved woman who's not really bereaved because the husband just left. He didn't die, even though she dresses in all black. It's like, oh no,
he needed to leave her in someone's charge.
Yeah, because like, what is she gonna do? Stare at the wall all day? No,
she'll lose her mind.
Staring into the sea amidst
the
a bunch
lighthouse.
of fucking graves.
Or he could take the angle of like making commentary on that, you know, like.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He doesn't seem like a commentary.
He's not a
director.
commentary guy. I think he's definitely about tone, atmosphere, and madness. You know.
Yeah. Okay. So in that respect, I'm gonna modify my answer a little bit. I'm cheating. I'm sorry. We're going back to me. Fart jokes. Take them out. No more. I want to see him expand on the madness that ensues once they're like plague. When he shows up,
the wailing.
That's going to be so fucking rad, actually.
So I cheated last night and I watched the Werner Herzog version of Nosferatu. And while I did think it was boring as shit, I hate myself for having that opinion. I need to be in a different mood and rewatch it. But there were some visual aspects to it that I thought were so fucking cool. Okay. One of them was during the plague sequence. There's this moment where the Mina Harker character is walking through the streets of the town and like there's just dead bodies everywhere. People are the funeral processions are happening and she walks into this garden and there's this family that are having dinner on a table. Like a formal dinner outside in their garden. And in the background, there are just thousands of rats.
Oh,
and they're going, striking. They're carrying on as if nothing is happening. And when she walks out, they offer her like a drink and like a place at the table. And I'm like, that's madness.
That is cool to just carry on as if nothing's. That's cool. All right. That is cool.
And that's going to wrap it up for not only this episode of PhantasmaCast, but for this season of PhantasmaCast. We've given you 10 strong episodes, 20 movies to watch. Go out and watch them. Let us know what you think about them. We are so excited to watch Nosferatu in December. It's a Christmas.
Christmas.
I think so. Yeah.
Birthday present from me. Andrea, thank you so much for making it to our season finale.
I didn't know it was the last episode. That just makes it so much more special. Thanks for thinking of me for this.
Of course.
I'm happy.
I still maintain this show would not exist without you. So thank you very much.
I'm so happy that you guys found each other. Truly. I'm happy to be back home and get to hang out with you guys whenever I can. Yeah. So
any opportunity for us to all watch movies together is a good opportunity taken, I say.
Yes, sir. And go listen to this podcast because these people are not just talented, they are special human movie lovers.
Thank you so much. Your check is in the mail.
See ya.
We are here. We are waiting.